Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Young Justice. And for those of you who are not in the know, Young Justice is an animated superhero show based around the DC Comics characters who were mainly sidekicks, but obviously a lot of them evolved into more full-fledged superheroes down the line. But anyway, the show ran back in the early 2010s and was canceled after 2 seasons, and it aired on our Cartoon Network. But in the last couple years, DC revived the series on the then DC Universe and now on HBO Max, and is now in season 4. But given this is about a decade after the original run of the show, and as they now put it on these platforms, the show is very, very different. And this is just kind of a warning to you all who may want your classic cartoons revived that may have had abrupt ends. This is what you have in store in this current day and age. So first we're going to take a quick look at Young Justice Season 4, Episode 14. I had been following the show with the new season when it aired on HBO Max, and there were definitely some stuff getting added in to the series, which we'll touch on in a minute. But when I got to this new arc, which is about Aqualad and Atlantis and things like that, the amount of stuff that they packed into a 25-minute episode is absolutely crazy. The amount of stuff that they've pushed in this one episode. So let's go through some spoilers if you care for Young Justice Season 4, Episode 14. If you care, just know they're going to get spoiled. But in this episode alone, we get all the following. We get a side story that has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on in the plot of the season or the episode, about a character learning about the Islamic religion and how to be a Muslim. And so you get a whole section about, them just talking about the identity and what it means to them and stuff. And so you get a whole thing. It's not tied to anything else in the show, just the character wants to know. And so that's the first thing. And if it was just that, you wouldn't really think much about it. But then it continues. Then later on in the episode, we get the climate change preach. And it's not very long, but it's enough to show in your face that, the humans are horrible, they're destroying the planet. And of course, they always bring this up with like Aquaman type stuff. So that was another thing that they crammed. Then, of course, they had to remind us that Kaldur, which is Aqualad, or Aquaman, I guess now, is in a gay relationship with another guy. So they changed that in the show because in the comics they decided to change him to be a gay character. But as far as they never specified, but we assumed he was straight because he had a female love interest in the earlier show. But that's now changed. And then another character who was previously established as a straight character, at least never said, but we assumed was Lagoon Boy, who was in a relationship with Miss Martian in season 2, is now apparently in I believe called a polyamorous relationship, where he has not only a wife but a husband. So there's 2 husbands and a wife. And at first we get him in the show with the woman, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to be a father," and it's like, okay, sure. He found someone else after Miss Martian. But then later on the show, that same woman runs up to another guy and is like, "Oh, my husband." And I was thinking the whole time, like, what? I thought she was with him. It's like, what? And then Lagoon comes in and is like, "Oh, my husband." And I'm like, oh my gosh. So they added that too. And then with all that, then at the very end in the credits, there's a whole scene listening while you're watching the credits about the same character that was finding out about the Muslim religion is now, because she's not technically human, I guess, because the Mother Box created her. She had a whole conversation with the other character about her gender identity and decided to be a they-them. So I guess not a she, but a they-them. So this is all in one episode of a superhero show. There was about 1 minute of action at the very end of the show where Orm, the Ocean Master, attacked and they fought, and then some mystery guy came in and beat him and he ran away, and that was it. The rest of the show was all the other stuff, going through all those different things, and that was the entire show. Was all that crammed into one episode of this show, Young Justice. And I don't think it can be considered a superhero show at this point. I mean, it's not even trying to hide anything, no subtlety at all. It was completely crammed into it, and they're just in your face. And the rest of this season has been not quite as bad, but it has been a lot. Like the first arc was resolved around Connor and Miss Martian, and it was basically about Martian racism. And then, so basically, each of the are just about 4 to 5 episode arcs with each of the original characters going through. And so then later on, we got a Satana arc where we had her father Zatara. So we had him talking about his Christianity faith, kind of not in the same depth, I don't believe, as they did the Muslim one, but it was kind of throughout the arc that was like a central focus. And so they really have been trying to go through, in every arc they're kind of going through and having some kind of social or identity politic type thing in each of these arcs, and it's really overshadowing the rest of the story, I feel, because it's like those are the main things, and then the other aspects that a lot of people would come to the show for are pushed to the back. And this show is nothing like it was in the earlier seasons. And honestly, I think season 2 was a dip even before it canceled from season 1. Season 1 was really good, but the time jump killed a lot for me. And this the revival of the show has not been what I was hoping for when we originally heard that it was coming back. And it's crazy how much that they're not hiding it at all. This is completely about their agenda, social, political agendas, and nothing to do with superheroes. They're just using the superheroes for the name only. And that's why I don't hear anyone about the nerd community talking about this show anymore. I honestly forgot it came back on after the break that it had over the winter. And I had like 6 episodes already aired that I didn't even know about. When I turned this on, I could not believe what I was watching. And I haven't watched another episode since. I don't even know if I will, but we'll see. But this just wanted to bring up this topic. A lot of people have talked about these shows that got canceled too soon or that we'd like to see revived. I'm talking like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Spectacular Spider-Man, even Teen Titans. I've heard people talk about wanting to come back that we feel like weren't finished. And I do agree that a lot of them would have been cool to continue on. But in this day and age, I feel like it would be a mistake because it would only cease to tarnish the legacy that these shows had, which are very near and dear to both kids and adults alike, because a lot of us were kids when they aired and are now adults now. So I think it would be a mistake for them to mess with any of these shows as much as I would like to have seen them continue. It's just Young Justice shows what they are going to do with these shows if they get their hands on them again. And a couple of shows, 2 of the most iconic shows ever from the superhero genre, X-Men the Animated Series and Batman the Animated Series, are both getting rebooted in the future. Now, the Batman the Animated Series is not technically a continuation, I don't believe. It's called Cape Crusader. We know that people like J.J. Abrams are attached, so that's already a little bit of a red flag there. And then we have X-Men the Animated Series, which is going to be tied to the MCU somehow. So that's also being rebooted to continue on from where they were. And these shows are not going to be what you think. If you're expecting them to be an continuation of the ones we saw in the 90s, you're in for a rude awakening. I already know that this X-Men show is going to be full of different types of identity politics, social, political messages. It's going to overwhelm the show, and it's not going to be the X-Men show you remembered. And the same thing for Batman and the Cape Crusader, which is going to be kind of in the style of Batman the Animated Series, and it has some of the creators attached to it, like Bruce Timm. So just be warned, these shows are probably not going to be what you're looking for, so don't get your hopes up. If Young Justice can tell us anything, it'll tell us that they do not care about these characters, they care about their message. So just be warned not to get your hopes up. I hate that it is this way because I love these characters, I love these shows, but they're in the hands of people who do not care about them the same way we do. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Have you been watching Young Justice? What do you think about them rebooting these old shows? And do you think there's any chance at all that I'm wrong and they're going to make these really good? Let me know in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.